Welcome everybody to another Industry and Transition Zoom call. I am very happy to have Pat Jancy. Am I saying that right, Jancy?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
I'm the best. All right, so he's head of advisory business consulting group at Cetera, and we're going to talk about the industry and get his insights on a few things. Thanks for being here, Pat.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Tony. It's great to see you again.
Anytime. I want to get into some things I know that you want to talk about, like, transitioning and succession planning and stuff like that. But tell me a little bit about, because we're asking everybody, we're at the end of this COVID, stuff where we're entering a post-COVID world. What are your thoughts on what we've been through sort of the past 18 months, and where do you think Cetera is going from here based on the COVID stuff? Yeah,
it's a great question. And I got to tell you, what comes to mind is the resiliency of our clients, the marketplace at large, but across America, right? I mean, you see the real, true red, white, and blue spirit coming alive here. And while many of us are optimistic that we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, we're certainly being cautious as well. So you might imagine, Tony, much of our focus now is helping advisors re-engage with their clients and being thoughtful about arming them with some tools and best practices to do so, with the expectation that we'll be resuming some sense of normalcy in the future.
And some of the things that are there are things I think we can all just take and throw away. We're happy to leave behind us some of the dumpster fire that was 2020, right? But there are some things that came out of it that were good, like technology, like things that we're doing right now. What are some of the things you think you're going to keep going forward? Like, in terms of, now we're all sort of into Zoom, you think advisors are going to keep doing that? I mean, they're not going to throw it away, right?
And it's based on client demand, right? Investors have found the convenience and ease of engaging with advisors using technology. And so that has served as a catalyst for many advisors being early adopters of some of the technology, but also some of the laggards, folks who have been resistant to the idea in the past. This pandemic has certainly accelerated their willingness to embrace the technology. So to your question there, we do expect that technology that allows greater collaboration between advisors and their clients will continue to be a staple going forward for our clients.
And the other thing, I always ask about, and I guess I'm sort of two minds about it, is the real estate. So Cetera, you have advisors in all kinds of offices. You have W-2 channel, as well as sort of the independent guy. What do you think is going to happen with advisor offices? And I understand, start with you have some long-term leases. That's just the way it is, right? It was always a smart thing to do in our business, sign a 10-year lease. But do you see office configurations changing sort of based on the new technology, or people maybe doing less of one thing than they did before and more of another?
So I do expect that technology will be, and real estate in particular, will be revisited as we look at the future and recognizing the square footage needs, right? Let's acknowledge, you're hearing terms now like hoteling, right? Being thoughtful about, does each individual advisor need a single home office to have access to, or can they share that with other advisors as well? So we're being prudent and thoughtful in our own footprint, to your point, around looking at leases that we have that are maturing and considering whether or not it's a good investment for us to consider downsizing in some potential areas. So we're taking a closer look at that, as you might imagine, and counseling our advisors as well to be thoughtful about how to engage using technology and remove the requirement for the office space that many of them have been enjoying over the years. But I think this pandemic has brought to light the flexibility of enabling advisors to work remotely.
Like a lot of people, I'm of two minds of it, because we're also, our generation maybe, and advisors, trend older. So, we're used to having an office space, and we're if you're in this business, you're a people person, right? So you like to be able to press the flesh. But there's no denying that if you're an RIA, or you're, I'm sure you guys as well, that real estate's a big part of the P&L. It's a big expense, so it's something worth looking at.
It is indeed, and yet at the same time being thoughtful of the next generation of advisors. To your point around the coaching and development and mentoring of those advisors, right? It's amazing what can be accomplished in the face-to-face relationship building environment, and so we're trying to protect and preserve that as well, and complement the fact that many advisors still enjoy that opportunity to help, again, the junior associates in their organization develop.
It's incredibly important. Actually, Joe Durant said this on an interview. I wish I could take credit for it, but he said, we're an apprentice culture, which is true. I mean, you learn by watching. I mean, I'm sure that's true of most industries. But I've got 20-year-old kids that, have been in the office for a very short period of time. You take a year off and you miss so much. You miss going to lunch with people. You miss trying to figure out what, in our business especially, you got to learn by asking questions.
Point well taken, and acknowledging, as you might imagine, we're growing during this pandemic as well and adding new associates. So you can imagine some of them have joined the organization and have not yet set foot in one of our real estate office locations. So you can imagine we're excited to get them into the office and to help them continue to prosper and grow in their business.
I guess that raises another question. How do you keep culture going in a virtual environment? How do you, what have you guys been doing to sort of keep it going?
Yeah, so it starts at the top, and our CEO, Adam Antoniadis, is a big proponent of embracing and building the culture here at Cetera and ensuring that our leaders are the torchbearers, right? Ensuring that we are carrying the message to our teams. And as you might imagine, we're still connecting on a daily basis. As you might imagine, even with my leadership team, we have our morning huddle ritual where we get together to ensure that we're staying connected. But to your point, it really does start at the top, and making sure that in this type of environment, it becomes ever increasing more important to constantly remind our team of what makes this place special and what makes this place unique. And so we carry that torch every day.
You also mentioned that the firm's continuing to grow, which is another thing that, we saw. Look, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was just like, I don't know what's going to happen, but the technology has really made it, I thought no one's going to move $1 billion book, without meeting anybody, without shaking a hand, but it happened. Not only that, but firms merged. There were things that went on that were business as usual and was done virtually. Obviously, that's going to change, but it was pretty incredible.
Well said. And whether that was organic growth or, as you described, the inorganic growth continues to be a catalyst of our growth here at Cetera. And we're excited and optimistic about the future. But to your point, the pandemic while it may have slowed down in the early stages of the pandemic, I would argue that we quickly recovered and saw significant growth here in our business across our entire footprint.
One of the things you and I talked about before, things like involving transitions, but also, succession planning is sort of being an important, factor in sort of this movement. Because look, COVID came, succession planning revolves a lot around, advisors are older. We just mentioned that, right? It revolves around retiring. Maybe this COVID thing was a little bit of a wake-up call. We lost some friends possibly, or at least we were forced to face our mortality maybe a little more than we did. Have you seen an uptick in some of that succession stuff that I know you're passionate, about?
We have indeed. And it starts with acknowledging, and the industry pundits will tell you that more than 2/3 of advisors don't have a well-defined succession plan. Right. And so we're reaching out to them, Tony, uncovering who they are. And number one, starting first with helping them understand the distinction between a continuity plan and a succession plan, and helping them understand this pandemic brought to light the need to have, at a minimum, a continuity plan. But heaven forbid, some of them suffered, the COVID-19 impact. We wanted to ensure that each of their clients were going to be protected with the form of a continuity plan. So we helped advisors kind of think through that. But then to your observation, and it's a good one, our advisors, just like the rest of us, they're not getting younger, they're getting older every day. And yet at the same time, the number of new entrants, the number of new advisors coming into our space has slowed relative to the number of individuals who are preparing to retire. So we're trying to, on one end, elevate the attractiveness of this channel, of this business to aspiring college students, but at the same time, recognize on the upper end, those advisors who are ready to transition, we're engaging with them on a daily basis to help them certainly maximize the value of their enterprise, but then be thoughtful about how to formulate a transition strategy. And it's keeping us engaged on a daily basis.
If you're at a large firm wirehouse, it's basically a formulaic approach, and this is what everybody has to do, and done. What's your approach? What do you guys do? Is it one size fits all, or is it more of a negotiation?
Well, and it starts with, number one, really understanding the advisor's business, right? So helping them understand how to maximize the value of their business. So we have a number of advisors today who are still heavily transaction-oriented, commission-based business. And we're helping them realize the transformation to advisory, a fee-based model, and the potential impact that can have on their business. But to your point, it starts with us engaging with them on a one-on-one consult, understanding kind of ultimately what are they trying to achieve with the future of their business, and helping them put together a prudent plan to transform their business from the current state to the desired future state, and then help them identify attractive potential buyers, right? So as we might imagine, we create a forum within Cetera to allow advisors who are looking to grow through acquisition to be introduced to advisors who are ready for that transition. And so depending on their business model, as you know, the different communities that we serve, whether you're a tax professional, you work a large OSJ, we have business models that fit the entire spectrum. So
Right.
we want to make sure we're aligning those advisors ready to transition to the suitable advisor who's well positioned to, again,
And
help
everybody,
them.
if you're think about this businesses, everybody does have different needs. Like I think the key part that you mentioned was you got to ask them, what do they envision? What do they want? Are you working till you're 70? Are you working till you're 75? Are you coming? How many days of the week you coming in? Where you're playing golf? And then of course, once these things get on autopilot, what happens is the client base basically, leaves because they're 10 years older than the advisor. They go away. What's in place maybe to get that second generation. So because we lose most of that money, typical book.
And that's a great observation, and one that we're acutely aware of, and helping our advisors think differently around connecting with that next generation of investors. And so we're putting strategies together to help them to, again, formulate a go-to-market plan to ensure that as that money transitions to the next generation, that they're well positioned to continue to manage and embrace that relationship. And it's not easy. It's really a transformative approach that we're considering here, is getting them to understand what are the differences in the considerations of the millennial investor that they need to be mindful of when they're dealing with a Gen Y or Gen X investor. These are the types of strategies we're helping advisors embrace and understand going forward.
Well, part of this, again, back to the technology brought up, by the COVID, a lot of the Zoom stuff, I think, will serve that next generation well because they're more comfortable with it. I mean, it's what they're used to,
It is indeed, and I'm optimistic. The pundits will prognosticate on the next 10% movement in the market. Will it be up or will it be down? I have no idea. But what I can tell you is that the insatiable appetite out there right now for advice, investors are reaching out looking for advice. So we're arming our advisors with the tools and content that they need to serve as the quarterback, the wealth manager, Tony. That's really the focus here at Cetera, is arming our advisors with the tools that they need, again, to become the quarterback of their relationship.
Look, the second wake-up call that we had was the markets that surrounded the COVID stuff. I mean, we had a bull market for the last 10 years, and all of a sudden, hey, things can go the other way. Even for advisors, you need to be able to be aware. But that certainly, I think, points out the need for advice, which I don't think this robo stuff is to be ignored. I think when you look at what some of the larger firms are doing, they've got call desks and all that. That's a form of a robo in my mind. Where you just formulaic approach to investing and all that kind of thing. So to the extent that people need advice and see that these things can go down or problems can happen, you look at the tax situation we're going into, there's no algorithm that can tell you what's going to happen politically,
Well said. And that's something we're keeping a close eye on as well. The Biden administration has made it clear that we do expect changes in the future. And so, as you might imagine, Tony, we're preparing our advisors for that potential change. And what are some of the considerations that they should be deploying today in preparation for those changes in the future?
Yeah, it's you earn your pay now. I mean, now is the time you've been paying into this thing, getting advice from your advisor. Now's the time you're really going to need something, because what do you do? What's our estate plan going to look like?
Exactly. And to that end, it's helping advisors think differently around how to monetize the advice that they're delivering to their clients. So historically, we think about asset management as the catalyst for fee revenue for advisors, right? We're helping them understand the power of planning and the value behind it. And so we're helping them deploy strategies on how to monetize the value of the advice and deliver a service to clients on their terms. Meaning, if some investors are more comfortable paying an hourly fee, or if they're willing to pay an annual retainer fee, we have programs here at Cetera that afford the advisor the flexibility of delivering advice in the terms that their clients most comfortable with.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's critical for the future. I've been in the business. I don't know how long you've been. I don't want to make an assumption here, but I'm well over 30 years. You know, could be getting close.
I'm joining you, Tony. I'm joining you.
Right. So I've in all that time, I've never seen commissions go up. So we used to make like 8% on a mutual fund. I don't know about anybody else. We didn't know what our assets were. They'd ask, well, I don't know. My assets have no idea. You know, so you got to learn how to charge for advice, because that's really what we do.
That's it. And I'll tell you that is what is distinguishing one advisor from another, is the value of the advice, right? Because to your point, the robo technology today is empowering advisors to deliver portfolios and construct portfolios in ways that are meeting the diverse needs of their client set. But it's the advice, right? It's how to manage through.
Totally. And that's what's going to, you know, that's what times like this, which I think are advice volatile, right? You've got like this tax thing, it's a serious thing, and it has a tremendous impact with capital gains tax and carried interest and all that kind of stuff. So advisors are going to start separating themselves out. So the ones that can't keep up are going to lose business to the ones who can, and you just have to be educated. And it's good to have a firm to help you. I mean, that's why it's hard to be on your own sometimes with this stuff.
And so to your point around the education, that's where we're investing heavily at Cetera, is investing in programs to elevate our advisors' understanding of what is on the horizon, what could potentially happen, in particular in the estate planning front. So we're hosting an event later this summer here with our advanced planning team led by Stan Smiley. We're going to spend quality time kind of demystifying what are some of the potential outcomes of this tax reform under the Biden administration, and arming our advisors with the if-then type of scenarios, and then embracing our technology, Tony, powered by with the InvestNet and our Money Guide Pro platform, is arming them with the tools on how best to maximize their productivity and scalability of their business using these tools to deliver the service and advice that our clients come to expect and deserve.
Well, I think that's, going to be mission critical for everybody here, is to really get their arms around. I urge all advisors to, do what they can to get themselves educated, because you can't say, I don't know, to a question. You can say it's uncertain what the outcome is going to be, but you better have those scenarios worked out, like this, if this happens in this, if that happens in this.
That's it. And having a point of view, right? We're arming our advisors with a point of view on the what could potentially happen and what they should be prepared for when engaging with their clients. So great point.
I want to touch also on the Voya acquisition, see how that's going, where you think how is that accretive to the firm, and how in your opinion, where's that going?
Yeah, so thank you for asking, because I want you to know, here we are getting ready to start week 5 of the transition with our partners from Voya, now working under the name of Cetera Wealth Partners. We're delighted to have them in the family here at Cetera, and it's going exceedingly well. And I think a lot of that has to do with the advanced planning that went into this transition. The leadership team here at Cetera is taking great steps to ensure that we're walking through the process and hand-holding those advisors. The good news is, look, the synergies between our two businesses it's incredible, and the alignment has been certainly welcomed. We use the term kind of like-minded advisors. Many of these advisors that we're bringing on our platform here today are akin to this like-mindedness here at Cetera, where they are very client-centric. They are heavily oriented in their fee-based business as well. And as you might imagine, they're looking for access to the technology and the investment product solutions that we can bring to bear for their clients. And we're very pleased with the early feedback. As you might imagine, we're hosting daily meetings internally, keeping a pulse on what's working, where we need to pivot and improve the experience for our advisors. But thank you for asking. Yeah, we're very excited on the future of that partnership.
Well, like you said, based on some of the things we just talked about, for them to get up to speed on some of the estate planning issues to come and things like that, it's got to be a boon. I worry about advisors that are in the smaller RIAs. You have not only things like the tax stuff that you have to educate yourself on if you're not in a big firm, or rely on the custodians do a one-size-fits-all thing too, because they have to, because it's so big. They just, that's not individualized like it could be. And also you have this Reg BI stuff coming. So you need some scale for that.
Indeed. And look, Reg BI continues to be a focal point here at Cetera, is arming our advisors with what are the regulatory requirements around serving the best interests of your clients? how are you satisfying the reporting needs? And also we're looking at technology, right? Recognizing that in the future here, anticipating this will become a staple going forward, the requirement to be able to provide evidence of that you are operating in the best interest of your clients, in particular in the rollover space, right? Is ensuring that you're being
Yeah.
thoughtful about the expenses and the investment solutions that are available in the current plan that an investor may be invested in today. We're ensuring that we're arming with our advisors with those tools to help them understand how to comply with this Reg BI transformation. And it's an exciting time. I will tell you that back to the earlier comment you had around education. Our advisors are actively participating in many of the seminars that we're hosting on the topic of Reg BI, and they're highly engaged, as you might imagine. And we continue to put great forth an effort here under Joe Neary's leadership to ensure that they're ready for it.
So, I mean, obviously, I mean, we're coming towards the end. I know it doesn't feel like it, but we're coming towards the end of the call here. But we talked about, you know, a post-COVID world and some of the challenges that we had during there. And look, there's a sense of satisfaction that, hey, we got through this thing and I feel great. But there's issues in front of us. There's the Reg BI. There's this unknown about the taxes. You know what I mean? There's more regulation in other areas possibly coming. You know, it's sort of a new and different regulatory environment. What's your feeling on the future? So, you know, from here out.
Yeah, so and it's a great question because, you know, oftentimes when we think about adapting current policies, procedures, and practices to a digitized world, the COVID environment has accelerated our thinking on that front. Now what we're doing, Tony, is we're thinking differently around what are some of the capabilities that we want to introduce that are completely digitized from day one, and as opposed to thinking differently around how to digitize an existing practice that is heavily paper intensive and/or client facing. How can we use technology to think differently around the future of client engagement, client collaboration, and client service? I will tell you that is an area that we are investing heavily in, is to help advisors in their everyday engagement with us at Cetera, but also in their collaboration with their clients. So I think you're going to see a transformation here as far as thinking differently, instead of trying to adapt current procedures to a digitized world, starting with the mindset of, let's not assume here that this is going to be a face-to-face and or a paper-based environment. Let's digitize it from day one. It's a different mindset.
Totally different, but exciting. So let's see where we go from there. Hey, thank you, Pat, for spending the time with us today, and appreciate the insights from Cetera, and we will do more.
Always a pleasure, Tony. Great to see you. Be well.
Thanks a lot.